Everyone, pause your notifications.
Oh my gosh.
Am
I
I the
don't
only
even,
person who doesn't get Slack sounds?
I do not get Slack sounds. It's way too aggressive and I don't care to be quite that accessible.
Kara, so good to see you. Thanks for being with us. You are a longtime friend of mine outside of work, but you are an SMS expert, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you. We were talking about how a lot of brands today actually don't have like a formal loyalty program for subscribers and customers. And you were sort of talking about some tricks that brands can do with SMS to kind of create like a facsimile of one. So, could you tell us a little bit about that strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I have a lot of brands who want to do something in the loyalty realm. They want to reward customers, but either haven't fully built out a loyalty program or have one, but it might sometimes live on the back burner. And so, a few ways within Postscript that I think are pretty simple, they don't require a lot of advanced, sophisticated knowledge, are to build segments for loyalty programs as well as automation. So, one thing I told you is, for brands that I shop at, I might not know what my loyalty tier is with them, but if they texted me saying, congrats on your fifth order placed with us, here's $20 off your next order, that would motivate me to buy pretty much right away. So we do have the ability very easily within app to build automations based on something conditional like hitting your third, fifth, seventh, 10th order, depending on what might be natural for your business.
If someone texted me saying, "Hey, thanks for your 4 recent orders. Here's $20," kind of no strings attached. You don't have to log in. I'm just much more inclined to probably convert right at that point.
I know a brand that I shop at a ton. I know that they have a loyalty program, but remembering to be sure I log in or if I buy from their website versus in store, it can get confusing for me. And this is a brand I buy from multiple times per year. So thinking about the fact that most consumers are buying from dozens of different brands, if we all have a bunch of points programs and different tier levels to remember, it can get a bit confusing or complicated. So being able to let them know where they're at in their loyalty program is really helpful. So I couldn't tell you even my favorite brands. Am I on my seventh purchase or 20th or 50th? Sometimes I maybe don't want to know, honestly, because it's a little scary to know that I've spent that much money. But definitely, if a brand says, like, thank you so much for, placing your fifth order with us, here's free shipping on your next order, that can be really motivating to me. And especially for brands that are tend towards having a product that people buy multiple times, whether it's a replenishable product or just they have a really high amount of SKUs. Maybe I'm not ready to buy for me again at that point, but I have several May birthdays coming up. I might buy for a friend or somebody else. I think there's two ways to build a pseudo loyalty program within SMS. I really recommend both. One would be setting up automations based off of the number of orders somebody has placed previously on your website. I'd say the second version is through campaigns and segmentation. How I typically like to look at it is I ask a brand what is their typical average order value, and then I multiply that out based on the number of orders that somebody would consider to be a VIP. So if your AOV is $100 and somebody who might fall in your top 10% of buyers orders 4 or more times, I would typically say this is their fourth order or more, or they've spent over $400, because I also would want to reward somebody who's maybe only ordered twice, but they've spent $500 each time. That's a really big investment to my business, and actually often is actually better for my business to have one really big order. And so that's how I'd set it up on the segmentation side, and then just send a campaign to those people. I work with a brand that does this really well in the apparel space. So they do product launches quite frequently. And every time they drop a product launch that could be eligible for a discount code, they will send just their standard product launch to everyone with the exception of VIPs. And then to VIPs only, they will say, for example, hey, we just launched a new t-shirt collection. Because you've ordered 5 or more times, you're eligible for $20 off of your next purchase. And that crushes for them. It generates probably 5 times or more the amount of click-through rate, revenue, all of that, and lets people know not only that they have a reward, but something happened within that brand that would make them maybe want to capture that reward sooner.
In the macro environment that's going on right now, since acquisition is getting more expensive and harder, retention is super important. And merchants are looking for ways to retain and turn their existing list into repeat buyers. And this is why creating your own loyalty program could be like such a great play for retention and stuff like that.
One strategy I try to tell brands is I see them often sending campaigns purely based on their own brand moments. So new product launch, sale, something of that nature. I typically recommend that is only about 50% of the messages that you're sending out. And 40% of the messages you send out in addition to that should be where that customer is at within their journey. So instead of you having a sale, maybe it's that person hasn't ordered in 3 months, or that person just hit their 5th order. And I think a good amount of your campaign should actually be based on not what your brand is doing, but what that customer has or has not been doing recently. And I think that's a great way to look at retention, is not just what your brand has happened to have pre-planned for this whole year. That might not coincide with that customer's birthday or an event that they're going to or something like that. And so that's really how I like to look at different types of campaigns and when you should send those campaigns.
I was just reading something in the Cart Stars community that was really good. Oh yeah, she said, here's a little pulse on what's going on in the ecosystem. Retention is taking focus. So holding on to existing customers is a growing priority as acquisition becomes more expensive and less predictable. Customers are hesitating, they're slower to buy, often spending less, or waiting for a stronger reason to convert. I guess that kind of like plays into this too. When I read those two, I was like, oh, that's kind of related to like the Kara episode somewhat.
To that point, I have a lot of brands coming to me, not just right now, but all the time, saying that they need to cut their ad budget on the acquisition side. It's not as successful as it was a couple years ago or even a couple of months ago. And how can they look to their retention channels, particularly SMS, to make up for that? And I think that adding additional campaigns can be a really great idea, and making sure that those audiences are targeted towards where that person might be at in the customer journey. So instead of trying to acquire a customer on Meta that can be really expensive and maybe they'll only buy one time, really focusing on those customers who have bought from you historically a lot in the past, but have not bought from you recently, or maybe you've launched a new product in the past month and they have not purchased that, but they have been loyal purchasers during your product launches in the past.
Kara, thank you so much for joining us. Those were great nuggets of truth and wisdom and prophetic in a way where I would follow you. I would follow you almost anywhere.
And he literally did follow you everywhere. He followed you to Postscript.
The reason I work here. Thank you for that.
Amazing. Well, I'm super excited to be here with you guys, and I hope I get to come back soon.